Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled that you are here. Thanks for joining us. We've got a great group tonight, and we're really thrilled about that. It looks like, well, let's see. Let me introduce myself, because some of you don't know me. I'm Devin Thorpe, and I am the Utah Rotary E-Club president. And the Utah Rotary E-Club is pretty much the smallest Rotary club in Utah. But we have, I like to think we play above our weight. And so we're a great little club. We're proud of what we're doing, and we welcome all of you. Most of you are guests, and we're thrilled to have all of you. Because most of you are guests, I hope you'll forgive me for not devoting the time I normally would to welcoming guests. But I note that in addition to Jenae, our speaker, and Heath, her colleague, that Scott Howell is with us today. Scott was the president of the, no, I guess he was the minority leader of the Senate. I wish he'd been the president, but that's sorry, that's a little political. Forgive me. But Scott has become a dear friend of mine. He's with us tonight. We welcome Rotarians from other clubs as well. Lots of those, and we're thrilled that that's the case. So thank you all for coming tonight. We'll begin by inviting Joyce Scott, who is the Utah Rotary E-Club president-elect, to lead us in the four-way test. And let me share my screen. If all goes well, I'll get that pulled up. Fingers crossed here. Okay, go ahead, Joyce.
Okay, the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, will it be fun?
Thanks, Joyce. Really appreciate that. We're excited to have all of you here tonight. So thank you all for coming. I do want to conduct one order of business, and sadly, Maheza's not here, but we have an applicant for membership in our club. And joining our club requires not only the completion of a formal application and then paying dues, but also approval of the members. And because our club is what is known as a satellite club, we exist more theoretically than actually. And so our parent club will also need to approve this. But Maheza Poyote has been attending our meetings regularly for the last couple of months, and has finally, and we're excited, submitted his formal application to join the club. It's Maheza's pattern occasionally to show up a few minutes late, so I wouldn't be surprised if he joins us yet this evening. But I'd like to ask members of the E-Club to approve his admission into the club. And for the sake of good order tonight, I'll just ask you to text, email me, or just private chat if you have an objection. Otherwise, we'll assume that your vote is in the affirmative tonight, and then we'll move forward with his submission to the parent club, the West Jordan Club. So with that, I am thrilled and excited to introduce our special guest speaker tonight. Jenae Green is our speaker, and she is here representing C-SPAN. And this is just such an important topic because what she's really going to cover for us tonight is to address this problem that we see of media bias. And I hate to admit that any liberal outfits, any members of the mainstream media are at all biased toward my friends on the left. And I think some of you will think that the same of your more conservative outlets, that they've got it right. But Jenae's going to help us think through how to access an unfiltered version of what the government is doing. I think that's just such an exciting topic for us to be considering. Jenae has been at C-SPAN for 5 years now and is on the community relations team. So a lot of what she does is this, right? She presents to Rotary clubs and probably others as well, maybe the Kiwanis and the Lions and stuff, and but all around the country. But she began in the newsroom as a production assistant, and so she's got deep experience at C-SPAN, and we're thrilled to have her. So without me rambling on any more about Jenae, let's turn the time over to her, okay?
Well, Devin, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone that joined us at the E-Club today for having Keith and I. Thanks for the warm introduction. My name's Jenae Green. Like you said, I have the pleasure of working at C-SPAN, and pre-COVID, we traveled a lot around the country to talk to community leaders like yourself, civics groups, universities, and things like that about C-SPAN's resources. So I've been to Utah, I think twice now. So I wanted to share a quick photo montage of my visit. And also when we travel, we typically have our C-SPAN bus with us. If you can see this here, give me a thumbs up just so I know. Great. So the C-SPAN bus is our mobile studio and classroom. So we went to your state capitol and we had one of your elected officials on board on our morning show, and then let viewers call in directly and ask questions about whatever topic they wanted. And they could also say, you know, really have open dialogue with their elected leader. And I remember, and correct me if this is still a thing, but I think there was a dog leash law or something like that in Utah. I remember someone called in talking about that. So we've heard it all. You can really say whatever you want to your elected officials. So this is the bus outside of the Capitol. This is me right there in my blue dress. And we did live interviews as well. So not only did we let you call in and talk directly to your leaders, but we also interviewed anyone that was walking by, asking what question, what do you want your elected officials in DC to do for you? And so you could talk about whatever you want. And then you'll see in the background, we have our Comcast banner, because when we're in a specific area, we like to partner with our local cable affiliates, because you'll learn throughout the presentation, but C-SPAN was funded and created by the cable industry. So we like to give them credit. And then here, not too far at all, is the Great Salt Lake. My first time there, and I was just doing cartwheels and having a good old time. And I told my boss on a previous call, yes, we did take the company car out to the Great Salt Lake. No one told me that you should fill up with gas before you make the drive. So I learned that the hard way as we were almost on E and had to go all the way across. And I think I ended up in a different state to fill up with gas before coming all the way back to our hotel in Salt Lake City. So lesson learned on the road. Right here, visiting one of your local universities, the University of Utah. You can see the salt still in my shoes. Yes, same day. And then right here, Utah has probably given me my most Facebook profile pictures. So thank you all. This is in Logan, Utah. I have a few, but really, really beautiful state just all throughout. So many diverse, picturesque backgrounds. So I wish I was there in person, but I'll settle for Zoom right now. But I promise you, I will be back to visit in the future. So thank you for having me. Heath, go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself before I get started with the presentation.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for having us. I've been at C-SPAN for over 20 years now, right out of college. It's a place that a lot of people love, and they believe in the mission, and they stay for a very long time. So I get the great pleasure of working with folks like Jenae on a regular basis. I just want to say, before I turn it back over to Jenae, thanks for having us, first and foremost. But also, thanks for everything that you do in the community. We pivoted to the virtual space, you know, in earnest probably 6 months ago, September. It was at 7 months now. This has been very rewarding, not only because we get to talk to groups like yourself that probably have heard of C-SPAN, but we get a lot of after the facts. Like, I had no idea C-SPAN had all those great offerings on the various platforms. So they tend to learn other ways to access these days, which I appreciate. But also, I love hearing about the things that you do in your community, that your service and the tight bond that you guys have as a civics club. So really, thank you for everything that you do. It's really personally, like I said, it's really been rewarding in that regard. So I'm going to hand it back over to Jenae, and towards the end, we'll get to your questions. So don't be shy. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you, Heath. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I do want to fill out the room really quick, though. So raise your hand for me if you have heard of C-SPAN before, besides today. Give me there we go. I see. Okay. I see plenty of hands raised. That's great. So I think it's pretty relevant, like Devin said, just with everything going on in Washington and with media today, to hear from us, especially as all eyes are on Washington. Now, tell me this. Is there anyone in the room that remembers when television was just 3 giant networks and a government-supported channel called PBS? All right, so there's a few more. Awesome. Well, around that same time, back in 1979, our small network with this sort of unusual name, we decided to roll out a big idea. So what we wanted to do was let viewers decide all on your own what's important to you. And how we did that is we completely just opened the doors to Washington policymaking and really brought you that unfiltered content from Congress and beyond. And now it's been 42 years since. We just had our birthday last week. And of course, the political and the media landscape has clearly changed since then. But I think that you will find that C-SPAN's big idea is more relevant today than ever. Now, I will say these unprecedented times that we're living in, they do demand a sort of unconventional approach to political news coverage. So today I'll share with you the ways that C-SPAN, both on television and online, is a powerful media resource, how it's widely trusted, and how there's a wealth of easy to access tools that allows you to follow the day's events and really become even better informed participants in our democracy. Now, underpinning all of this, all of our nonpartisan coverage of Washington and the nation's politics as a whole, is the fact that no government money supports C-SPAN. Again, no government money. It's funded as a public service by your cable or satellite television providers. And so just know that we're here for you, offering you something distinct in today's media, again, so that you can make up your own mind. Now, for the Zoom, if you're not muted already, go ahead and mute yourself. And if you have any questions throughout the Zoom, feel free to put them in the chat. I saw that Peter was from Logan, so the chat's already popping, so feel free to put that in there. And then at the end, we will answer your questions. And also, when we're done today, I will go ahead and I will send Devin an email with ways that you can stay connected with C-SPAN, and I'm sure that he will be happy to share that with any of our guests that are joining. So let's go ahead and let's get started with the official portion of the presentation. Now, think about this. Throughout our history, our democracy has really faced many serious challenges, but have we ever faced so many challenges at one time? I mean, just in the course of the last year, we've experienced the emergence of one of the worst pandemics in 100 years. We had an extremely volatile economy and job market. There has been widespread social unrest unfolding across the country, and some of the most consequential fires and hurricanes that we've had in years. And then, don't forget, we had a presidential and congressional election cycle like no other in our history. And now with a new Congress and a new administration, more than ever, people are looking to see how their elected leaders in Washington are going to address all of the issues that our nation is facing. And so at C-SPAN, we'll show you why we should be one of the key networks that you turn to, to see how your elected officials are responding to all of these pressing matters, but in their own words, and of course, to see how their actions and their policies are affecting you and your community right there in Utah. So at C-SPAN, we like to say that we're different because we are, but even more, we're purposely different. So I want to talk about what that means and then what that means for you. And I'll also, while we're on the presentation today, just show you how you can use all of our unfiltered resources and our coverage to view today's events and to engage with news and newsmakers in ways that other media doesn't provide. So here at CSPAN, we will not attempt to tell you what to think. Really unique to television, we simply just put you in the room, in those rooms where the most important political and policy issues are being discussed and debated. And then we allow you to watch these events in their entirety, for you to think for yourself, and again, for you to make up your own mind. So now a bit more about how C-SPAN is what we call purposely different. So we'll take a look at our business model, our unique perspective on public affairs news, and how our mission makes our coverage look a lot different from other media outlets. So now 4 decades, that's a long time for a cable news channel. In fact, we were serving the public even before CNN and ESPN launched, and more than a decade before the other cable news networks started. But in that time, we have never veered from our core public service mission. We're actually pretty uncommon in the media business because we're a nonprofit, independent enterprise. And now the cable television industry, they supported and launched this public service back in 1979. And again, contrary to many people's thinking, our funding does not come from the federal government. To this day, even, C-SPAN continues to be funded through those fees that are paid by your cable and satellite companies that distribute television into your home. So if you have Comcast out there, that's one great example. And it's really this funding model, I want to stress this, it's that funding model that allows C-SPAN to be mission-driven rather than driven by TV ratings. So now we do talk a lot about our mission, but I want to take a closer look at how our mission is carried out by what we do. Because for us, it's the events and the people that we cover that are really the focus. So C-SPAN, we provide long-form programming. So what I mean by that is we will show you events from start to finish and without interruption or editing. And that's whether it's a 12-hour debate or a 20-minute press briefing, it does not matter. And then we're also going to show you balanced coverage, providing multiple viewpoints. And we'll really do that so that you can have a chance to hear from experts from across the political spectrum who can provide perspective and help you better understand the issues. And then quite simply at C-SPAN, I mean, it is not about us. So C-SPAN doesn't provide the commentary, but instead we'll bring on lawmakers or decision makers and journalists to create, influence, and report on public policy, and we'll have them provide the perspective. And at C-SPAN, we just like to stay out of the way and really give our viewers direct access to those leaders. And then my favorite, we invite viewers to participate in the discussion. And that's whether it's on social media, you can text us, or more interestingly, you can call in live on TV and ask questions or debate whatever topic that's being discussed. And so now, how does C-SPAN's mission guide us to the events that you'll be watching? Well, we provide unparalleled coverage of Congress, and we do that by showing you that live gavel-to-gavel coverage of floor proceedings from the U.S. House of Representatives on C-SPAN and the U.S. Senate on C-SPAN 2. And then we'll also show you committee hearings. So we'll show you those hearings where Congress is debating all of the challenges facing our nation. And I'm not just talking about the big blockbuster events, but really the day in and day out inner workings of our national legislature. And then we also go deep into the corridors of the Capitol to show you briefings by congressional leaders in both the House and in the Senate. And then we'll also show you influencers as well, whether that's the Congressional Black Caucus or the House Freedom Caucus shown here, just to name a few. And I will say, even on January 6th, our coverage did not change. I mean, we cover the entire joint session of Congress until almost 4 in the morning. And then in true C-SPAN fashion, what did we do? Well, we opened up our phone lines to get your reaction to what was happening at the Capitol rather than giving our opinion. And we continue to cover hearings from both chambers of Congress as they're hearing testimonies from law enforcement and security officials on what happened that day. Now, we also cover the executive branch, and our coverage includes all public events from the new president and the vice president. It includes confirmation hearings from any cabinet nominees, and then it includes any meetings and briefings throughout the administration, especially as they're focusing on the president's agenda for his first 100 days. And now, though the Supreme Court doesn't allow cameras in the court itself, we do air audio of major cases, including live coverage of oral arguments since the court was first forced to go virtual due to the pandemic. And then we've also covered all of the Supreme Court justices throughout their nomination and confirmation hearings. And if there's ever a public appearance, we'll show you that as well, just so you can get insight on their judicial philosophy. Now, with our programming, as you can see, it does focus mostly on what's going on in the federal government. But I will say, to provide our viewers with a little bit more perspective, we often cover state officials, showing how they'll handle national issues, but on the local level. So for example, your governor, Governor Spencer Cox, he's been on C-SPAN multiple times discussing issues important to Utah. And then beyond just our coverage of elected officials, I mean, C-SPAN covers many events of national and international importance, whether that's the NASA rover landing or relevant debates like the weekly coverage of the Prime Minister's questions from the British House of Commons. And if you have not watched that, I highly encourage it. It's a little bit different than how we do things over here. So as you've seen from what I've showed so far, placing a camera in the rooms where these discussions and these debates are taking place, I mean, that's really C-SPAN's bread and butter. But in order to provide a fuller context for the decisions that are being made by our leaders and to get past the talking points, we go beyond coverage of events. And so we aim to add context through call-in programs like the Washington Journal. And again, this is our program where decision makers and journalists, where they come on and answer viewer questions and discuss what's happening in the news. So here you can just see we had two members from different sides, one from Utah and another one, both discussing the 2021 budget. And then also we'll have journalists on. So right here, you can see journalist David Wasserman, and he gave a really detailed overview of the 2020 census. And then he talks about how it will affect redistricting, including which states will lose and gain seats in the next election. So adding a lot of context there. And then we also will show experts as they're debating solutions to any public policy issue during forums at a diverse array of think tanks and advocacy groups. And then one of my favorites, so we'll air discussions with authors, and we do that through our weekly Q&A and our book TV programming. So a few years back, we toured a bookstore in Provo. It's the Moon Rare Bookstore, and we got an interview there, and it was really cool just to air that on C-SPAN as a part of our city's tour. And then we also feature lectures and firsthand accounts of historical events on American History TV. So like right here, this is the account on the life of Brigham Young. And we talked about his role in bringing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to Salt Lake City. And then we also set in on a lecture from a University of Utah political science professor. And there he talks about the creation of the Electoral College, how it works, and how it's a part of the whole entire presidential election process. So really informational there. It's been a few years since I've been in college, but I still learned something from that. Now I will say, talking about media, let's talk about that for a second. There has been a lot of discussion about the role of the news media, especially today in our society. And often we've heard that term fake news, right? Well, in the midst of all of this, C-SPAN is widely recognized and credited by others as factual, neutral, and trusted. So if you ever search online for a media bias chart, like this one right here from the media watchdog Ad Fontes, C-SPAN consistently ranks at the top for our production of factual content, and then we're right there in the center for our neutrality. And I mean, this has been our journalistic goal for 40 plus years, simply by providing viewers that front row seat to our democracy in action. And now I saw some of you raise your hands earlier. So for those of you who are familiar with our programming, I'm sure our place in this chart probably comes as no surprise. But for those of you who are a little bit less familiar, well, we hope this provides some sort of credible perspective on our role in the media. Now, Before we get to your questions, I do want to share how you can access our content. So first of all, we have 3 television channels, and they're all dedicated to providing that live public affairs programming. So we have C-SPAN, C-SPAN 2, and you can probably guess the next one, C-SPAN 3. Now, you can also find us online at cspan.org. And that is our video-rich website with live access to each day's coverage. And then everything we cover is available for on-demand viewing. And now with our website, it has a free video library that has over 267,000 hours of programming. And that number grows every single day as we cover more events. Now with our online programs, they can be watched in their entirety, but if you just wanted to do some quick viewing, we feature points of interest that jump through the highlight within the entire event. And then let's say you wanted to make your own clip and share it on social media, well, you can do that too. Now on our website, we also have a portion called our Congressional Chronicle. And this gives you detailed information on what's happening in the House and in the Senate. So this is where you could go to find a unique page for every single member of Congress, what the committees they sit on, their voting record, bills they sponsored, and more. And so, for example, here's the page of local members of Congress, Congressman Owen, and there you'll find his many C-SPAN appearances, including a recent hearing on discrimination against Asian Americans. But you could also search within his appearances for his position on a variety of topics, whether it's healthcare, taxes, or immigration. Now on our website, we also feature a full page dedicated to the government's response to the coronavirus. And this is where you can go to stay up to date on any conversations that are taking place in the administration, in Congress, and on the state level. And also, if you did want to follow the virus's spread, we have charts and maps on the side, and they're super interactive and they're constantly up to date. Now, I didn't ask before we started, but do we have any educators on the call? If we do, C-SPAN has a resource for educators called CSPAN Classroom. And it is a free service that we offer that has a wealth of resources to help teach civics and social studies in the classroom. And it also includes even short video clips on a variety of topics. And then there's lesson plans, and there's also other opportunities for members like education conferences and fellowships. And so if anyone has questions, I'm happy to talk about that more during the Q&A section. All right, so let's talk about staying informed on the go. So if you have your cell phone right there, keep it ready. C-SPAN has a free C-SPAN radio app, and that is our one-stop shop for a live stream of C-SPAN radio. You can get audio for all 3 of our television channels and a wide variety of podcasts. And the podcasts are great. I love listening to the lectures in history one just because, again, you really learn so much in such a short amount of time. And again, this app is completely free. Also, if you are on social media, make sure that you find and follow us. We're just at C-SPAN. And you can find us on Twitter for timely content. You can engage with the topics of the day on our Facebook page, and we read some of those comments on our morning show. And then you can also follow us on Instagram for features and peeks behind the scenes. And you can visit our YouTube page for even more video highlights. And if you're like me and you like to get your news directly to your email, well, that's fine too. C-SPAN actually has a variety of newsletters that you can sign up for, including, this one's my favorite. It's called Word for Word, and it really cuts through the daily news clutter and provides you a quick synopsis of political happenings. And then we also have a program guide with your daily schedule information. And then we have our weekly newsletters, and they'll preview what's happening on Book TV or American History TV that upcoming weekend. So as you can see, we have stayed true to our mission, but while expanding to serve our audience in innovative ways with fresh concepts for digital platforms and devices. And really, as the C-SPAN team works together to provide this service, it's the comments from our viewers, from everyday Americans, from influencers and leaders like yourself who value C-SPAN that really strengthen our resolve to remain purposely different. Let's take a look.
First of all, I'd like to just say that I really enjoy C-SPAN's coverage. Your unbiased approach to reporting news rather than editorializing is really, really a breath of fresh air for everybody.
I appreciate C-SPAN so much because I think it's about the most honest media outlet that we've got right now.
For your view, I've spent 20 years in that building behind you there covering it, and I could not do that job without C-SPAN. It is, for your viewers, as somebody who spends his day watching this stuff, they're all seeing it exactly as we see it inside that building. It's an amazing resource, so God bless C-SPAN.
First, I'd like to thank you, C-SPAN, because I've learned a lot about government and how it works by watching people debate on the floor of the Senate and the House. And I kind of understand my government a little bit better.
First, I'd like to say I've been watching you guys for over 35 years, and I want to thank you so much for being on my cable stations. It's a pleasure when I watch your congressional hearings and watch the whole thing. And then I watch the news and how they report it and see how it differs. So I want to thank you guys very much for being one of the few stations out there that gives us real information.
And having escaped a country that didn't believe in democracy, I escaped a communist country with my parents when I was very young. For me, it was so novel that C-SPAN would provide the transparency and the oversight that is so critical in a democracy. And so I'm really excited to be on the show with you today and so grateful to be a part of this democracy.
All right, so there you have it. I mean, we know we won't be your only source for public affairs news, but we hope that our time together helps show you at least how we can be an important complement to some of those other news sources. So I just want to thank you so much for having us, and I hope that you learned a little bit more about how and where C-SPAN fits in that modern media landscape. By following the principles of our big idea, letting viewers decide all on your own what's important to you. And then by opening the doors to Washington policymaking for everyone to see, and by bringing you that unfiltered content from Congress and beyond, and by serving it to you on any of the devices that you go to for news and information. Because C-SPAN's big idea is more relevant today than ever. So now that wraps up the formal portion. Let's open it up for Q&A. And Heath, let me know if you see any questions in the chat.
I do see one question from Devin. Can we access the channels online or via streaming tools like Roku without a cable or satellite subscription? So specifically to Roku, we do not have an app for that platform yet. Internally, we're having discussions on if we do have a video app, where does that live, right? And Roku might be one of those options, as well as people are consuming their news and information, and actually television habits are through streaming, a lot of streaming services now. So you might have Hulu or YouTube TV. We're not on those services yet either, but we do have a dedicated team at C-SPAN that's trying to get us on those lineups as well. So if you do have those services and you don't have C-SPAN and you have a minute or two to send them a nice email encouraging them to put C-SPAN on, we would greatly appreciate it. But we were definitely trying to get on those platforms because that's where you're watching and getting your information these days. So thanks for the question. Any chance you could be on YouTube anytime soon? That's a good question. We'll see. Again, I know our team is in conversation with Google and Facebook and all those to see and Hulu to see where and how we fit. So hopefully it will be sooner than later. So keep an eye out for it. But again, send that email. It means a lot to us. Any other questions? And we're happy to, you can open up your mic. You don't have to put it in the chat. Just raise your hand or unmute yourself and we can address those as well.
Question.
Yes.
I'd like to know if there's some way, if you're a sports channel, I can put in my favorite sports team. Can I put in my Utah congressman in there and be able to bring them up, watch them whenever they do something on there?
That is a great, and it actually, I think Jenae was going to bring this up, but within cspan.org, it takes 5 minutes. I do it. I use it all the time. You create a free account, and what you can do for your favorite authors, historians, or your local congressman or woman or your senators, you can sort of flag them. So whenever they come up, appear on our network, you will get an email notification. And you can also go to cspan.org. Jenae showed that search function at the top. Type in your congressman's name, and all his appearances will be there as well. But you can, like I said, create an account and get alerts for when they do speak on our network or appear on our network as well. Great question.
And this is what the account looks like, just so you know. This is old things that I've saved, but you can bookmark videos, you can bookmark people, bills, tags, you can have your own playlist, so you can really customize it to yourself. And again, it's just an email address and password that you decide, and that's it.
Hi, this is Scott Howell, and I just want to thank you for always having such an unbiased and professional journalism. I've always said, if you want to find the facts, don't listen to the talking heads and look to C-SPAN, whether it's from the presidential State of the State address to the many things you cover. So I appreciate that, and it gives me the opportunity to make up my own mind. When you look at the bias in journalism, where do you see the Fox Newses of the world and the those outlets? What are they doing, and do you believe that they're competition? And is that news real when we see that versus what we see in an unadulterated the conversations that you have?
Yeah, we thank you, Scott, and thanks for your service to Utah. You know, being a C-SPAN for 20 years, you know, elected officials sometimes, you know, can take a lot of heat. So I always tell people, hey, yeah, I think it takes a lot to throw your hat in the ring and to put yourself out there. So appreciate your service and what you do and have been doing. We get that question a lot, and I always put like the C-SPAN spin on it, right? You know, we're not going to comment on Fox News or MSNBC or CNN. All we can say is for the last 42 years, I always quote Pearl Jam. There's a lyric they have, I change by not changing at all. And I kind of think that's like C-SPAN, right? We've been true to our mission for the last 42 years, right? Show things in their entirety, multiple viewpoints. What I found is more and more people, exactly what you said, make up your own mind. They're seeking us out because they are tired of people telling them how to think or what to think, or out of a 25 minute, press briefing or event, plucking out what they think the most important pieces are. So people appreciate what we do. Now, the one thing that's been an opportunity for us is, we have our long format programming, right? We show things in their entirety. You can turn to it and you can, like you said, make up your own mind. Jenae touched upon word for word, and we do this on social media as well. So we try to make our content more digestible these days as well for people, so you might not have 4 hours to watch a hearing, but we get this word for word newsletter at the end of each day. And we take like a 2-minute piece or a 4-minute piece, 5-minute piece, but always know that, again, multiple viewpoints, trying to keep it balanced. And also you can always watch the entire program on your own at cspan.org. I mean, that's important to us, knowing that, but we do try to make it more digestible. But in regards to like media, I personally, I've been to 49 states. I've met folks of all ages, and they really, from both sides of the aisle, political spectrum, and they really appreciate what we do. Very rarely will I get grief from someone about what we do at C-SPAN. And when I do, it's an opportunity for me to say, okay, what do you mean? Oh, well, you watched this that one time, of course. Oh, that person might have been not on your side of the issue, but I guarantee you within that day or the next day, we had a counter argument or counterpoint to that topic or issue. So yeah, we're not perfect. We admit that, but we also think the way we go about doing things is the best way to give you news and information, right? So it's unfiltered and it's raw and it's, that fly on the wall is perspective. And people all the time are like, hey, you know what I love about C-SPAN? You guys turn the cameras on before a big hearing, like 5 minutes before like the hearing even gavels in. And you can see like who's mingling with who and it gives a real perspective. And right, there's really, there's audio, right? But there's not people speaking. It's just kind of room background and, audio. And, that's just, again, the testament of what we do and why we do it. So, but Jenae, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would just say too, we're different, right? So not saying there's anything wrong with the other political news networks. Like there's a place for everyone, but if you want something where you can just literally see it like you're in the room, that's why you come to C-SPAN. And if you want, someone to tell you what's happening or to have a little bit more dialogue besides our callers calling in and telling you, then you watch the other networks. So we balance each other out. We're not competition because we don't do ratings. So C-SPAN kind of competes against itself, and that's it. We don't have to compete against any of the other networks, but we have a special place, and I think that people value C-SPAN because of us, not changing and staying the same and being who we are true to our mission. And I want to add, I'm not going to put it out publicly, but Scott, I messaged you because I found you in the video library. So if you guys want to look Scott up, you can, but I won't put it in the chat in case he doesn't want everyone to see it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And thank you for your answers. I really believe that the way to get the facts is C-SPAN. And I love those backroom conversations that you hear before and after. I've learned so much when, our Senator Romney will be talking with Senator Manchin or something. And, it's as close as you can get to being on the floor. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say. I forgot to add. And you mentioned about other media outlets will actually come to cspan.org. Like there'll be a piece if it's like a federal, hearing or public affairs event, and we cover it. They will come to, our cspan.org, our video library, which is people say is like the gold standard of archiving, and they will use our programming to say, was that the way that they presented that information? Was that in context to how it was within the entire event or program? So other media outlets do use this as well because of the way we go about our mission and how we cover those events. So I just wanted to share that as well. Devin, another question.
I'll just add in a prime example of that is what happened at the Capitol not too long ago. We were really one of the only networks that just had the cameras rolling because they're always rolling there. And so a lot of news networks were pulling from C-SPAN's video library to air that, trying to get as much content as they could. So that's one prime example. But like today, I was talking to a university group, and one of the students asked if I had any archive footage of Ronald Reagan from 1980 something. And I typed it in the video library and pulled up, a debate right there. So, there's so much that you can really pull. So just adding that in.
Thanks. Next question from Devin again. What is the difference between the three channels? We'll share that. And does the context have different themes or focus on specific areas of interest? So yes, it does. So C-SPAN, we're dedicated to covering the U.S. House of Representatives live gavel to gavel. So if that body is in session, that's what you're going to find on C-SPAN. It's also where we have our morning call-in program, the Washington Journal. So you are 3 hours behind, correct? 3 hours? Right? Yep, 3 hours. So 2 hours. Sorry, 2 hours. Not 3, 2 hours. So it would be, let me do the math, convert the math, 5 to 7, right, Jenae? No, 5 to 8 your time. So that's on C-SPAN. C-SPAN 2, we're dedicated to covering the Senate live gavel to gavel. Plus on the weekend, going to specific topics or interests, we cover 48 hours of nonfiction books. So various authors across the political spectrum on C-SPAN 2 every weekend. And then C-SPAN 3, think about it, if the House and Senate are in session, it allows us that third outlet to show pertinent, germane, national public affairs events. In addition to on C-SPAN 3, we have 48 hours dedicated to American History TV. So that's kind of the breakdown with a bunch of public affairs and other programming in between. I I don't think there's anything else, Jenae, on that, correct? With how we break it down?
No breakdown as far as channels. I will say to our programming, we do have a meeting every day at 3 where we decide kind of what we're covering and making sure that it's, diverse and across the political spectrum. And then with our individual departments, as far as the Washington Journal, Book TV, and American History TV, they decide independently, still adhering to our mission, but they actually choose their programming on their own. So a little bit of independence there.
Yes.
And that question was from, did I see that question was from Alicia? It was. So thanks, Alicia, for the question.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Okay, a really, really important question. So what state haven't I been to? Does anyone want to guess? Anyone? Not all at once, please.
North Dakota.
Oklahoma.
Been there.
I see a Rhode Island in the chat.
Been there.
North Dakota.
Love North Dakota. Love Utah.
Hawaii.
Diana, you are the winner.
Ding, ding, ding.
I have not, yes. I have not been to Hawaii. So Jenae showed our bus, the C-SPAN bus that obviously is off the road with everything that's going on these days. So that's been around for 27 years. A few years back, we built and launched a new bus. And to kick it off, we did a 14-month U.S. Capitals tour. So Jenae and I arm wrestled. Actually, we didn't even arm wrestle because you could probably beat me. We decided that I would go to Alaska and she would go to Hawaii. So I had the opportunity to go to Alaska through C-SPAN, and Hawaii is the only state that is eluding me. So, but it was beautiful. Alaska, if you haven't been there, absolutely beautiful. We went to Juneau, and then we hopped on a ferry up to Haines and went through the Yukon Territory, up to Fairbanks, and then came down to Anchorage, and it was just awesome. And then Jenae, how many states have you been to?
I have not been to all 50 yet. Alaska is on my list. North Dakota is on my list. I've been to South Dakota twice, so I don't know why I couldn't just do one and the other. But I've been to 43 states so far. So as soon as we can travel again, I have like a corner of the country that I just need to check off, and then I'll be good.
And then Peter also has a question about C-SPAN Classroom. It is really cool. Thank you for that. You looked online. Thanks for looking at it as well. So we have about 44,000 members. Again, it's free. Create an account. When the pandemic hit, we had, if you were a member, you could access additional opportunities on the site, right? But now that firewall has been taken down, so everything is open and anyone can have access to it. But we encourage you to sign up because, there's teacher opportunities, as Jenae said, but it's we have a 3 education team at C-SPAN, 3 former teachers that obviously day in, day out put new content up there that's relevant to current events. They create lesson plans. They also think about what other materials that teachers might need in the classroom. They have this cool like electoral college poster that we give out at the appropriate time. We have a presidential timeline that we'll give out at the appropriate time. So yeah, we encourage you to check it out. And again, it's just, and you ask what levels, it is 6th through 12th grade, but our content is good for universities and colleges as well. So a lot of university and college professors use it. I will say with C-SPAN Classroom, great for the teachers, right? Bringing in those short video clips in the classroom to teach, social studies and civics, as Jenae said. But for the students, now this is 6th through 12th grade. Every year we do a video documentary competition called Student Cam, where we give away $100,000 in prizes. We just announced the winners in March. So the new theme is going to come out in August, but we encourage you to look at that as well. Again, think critically about an issue, teams up to 3, and again, they can win some money. And second through grand prize winners, if you want to keep an eye out for C-SPAN, they air on our network, and next month, in a week, they'll start airing April 1st on C-SPAN. So you can kind of check out the quality of those. I mean, some really, really good, well thought out, just really inspiring videos for sure. And it's not easy, but students take the lead, and they never disappoint.
And we have some 8th graders this year from Salt Lake City from the Madeline Choir School that placed honorable mention in our competition. So if they're in 8th grade and placing honorable mention, I'm hoping by senior year we'll have a grand prize winner right there in Utah. So special shout out to them. You're welcome. Well, really quickly, because we have to be mindful of your time, we attend Rotary meetings enough. So I just want to thank you all for having us. And if you have any additional questions, I can definitely hang out, and I'll also share my contact info. But since you joined us today, I would like to share something with you all. So C-SPAN in 2019, we did a documentary of the Senate, and we had exclusive access to the hallways, to leadership, and we're able to get some really beautiful content, and we decided to create a book out of it. And so normally we sell this book, but no, not for you all. We are going to offer it free as our way of giving back to you for all that you all do in your community. So if you want it, I will send a link out. Devin, please share, and you just put your address in there. We send you the book, and then we delete your address. So don't worry, but this is our gift back to you for having us today. So thank you all so much.
That's great. Heath and Jenae, thank you both for taking the time to be with us tonight. What a thrill to have you. This did not disappoint, and we're grateful that you would make the time to come. There's so much more I wish we could cover, but to your point, the hour is coming. Even here in Utah, it's starting to get late, and I know it's past your bedtime, Jenae. So we better let you guys go. But thank you so much. I'll leave the session going here for another 5 or 6 minutes if you guys want to chat with people, but we'll call this the end of the meeting, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. That was so wonderful.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. Great information.
Thank
So,
you.
Jenae, if you're going to hang
Thanks,
out,
Devin.
I do have a quick question for you. You mentioned
We were there at the Capitol. So just to brief you really quickly, when it comes to the chamber, those are not C-SPAN's camera in the chamber. So that is a camera that's there controlled by whoever leadership is at the time in the chambers. Now, outside of the chamber, let's say there's a hearing or in statuary hall, those are C-SPAN's cameras. And so they are operated by C-SPAN cameramen and women, and we had our crew there on site that day. Filming, we had some that were in the chamber and some in statuary hall, and they were there until they were asked to basically evacuate the area. And so they left, but they left the cameras rolling. And so even when they weren't standing there directly filming, the cameras were still on capturing what was happening for a good amount of the time until the cameras got cut off. I'm not sure by who, but eventually they were cut off. But our crew was completely safe. They were probably a little bit hungry because they had to take cover for a while, but then we got them, everything that they needed, their resources, and we were able to get them back to C-SPAN easily. So no issues there, but we were there on site. And we are, if you ever see us cover a hearing or any big event that's happening on Congress, we always have crew members there. C-SPAN is located about 2 blocks away from the Capitol. So it's a pretty easy commute from where we are to get there. So, and if you ever want to watch any of the content, I can put it in the chat. Actually, we have the moment where things started to happen, and so we just had our cameras rolling, and then one of our hosts came on set and said, "We're hearing that something's going on in the or at the Capitol," but we were still showing exactly what was happening. So we were kind of watching in real time with everyone else around the country as it was unfolding. So
great.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you very much. Wonderful.
You're welcome.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all again. And I'll put that in the chat for you really quickly. And then, like I said, I'll continue to hang out if you want me to. And you can have my email and ask any additional questions. There you go.
So real quick, Peter hopped off. So he teaches at USC. Is that like University of Southern California?
Yes, he does that, I think, largely remotely, and then he travels down once a week or something, I think, or used to. Pre-pandemic, he used to travel down 1 or 2 days a week.
Do you know what classes or what his expertise is in? Is he political
I know
science?
he's told me and I've forgotten. Does someone else remember? Alicia says he's in the MBA program.
MBA.
Okay.
Okay.
This is John. I think he's in the business school,
Okay.
marketing, if I remember right.
Oh,
nice.
That's great. Yeah, one thing that so when we pivoted, you hear that word all the time, to the virtual space, Civic Clubs were our target audience, right? Just because you're civically engaged, you're active in your community, you're leaders in your community, you probably have an interest in politics. And we've done several of these over the years, and we've always had a warm welcome, and it's always been a very positive, rewarding, conversation and discussion. Recently, we're sort of dipping our toe into the university virtual space. Now, the C-SPAN bus has been to hundreds of universities and colleges over the years. So I was going to talk to Peter, like, depending on what his background and his classes were, what he taught, that maybe that could be an opportunity that we could, share with his students, kind of what we do here. Because Jenae is the pro. She just spoke to her alma mater, Virginia Tech, last 2 weeks ago. So we're starting to get a good groove with that group as well.
And that being said, outside of just universities, I know that you all are coming from all over. If you have any connects with other Utah clubs, we would love to speak to them also. I mean, we're still speaking to Rotary clubs around the country. So if you want to get us in contact with anyone, that would be great. The more the merrier.
And honestly, really any clubs that, we're talking to, we have a relationship with AmeriCorps, so we're talking to their members. We kind of do that throughout the year. I've been in discussions with League of Women Voters. They're like excited about this opportunity to talk to their local members. So if there's any groups out there that you might think would benefit from this or just enjoy it, we're always open to new audiences. Over the years, we've talked to we've addressed the Chamber of Commerce, of course, Kiwanis clubs as well.
And we talked to Rotaract today. We talked to a Rotaract club. So
Yeah,
that was the
schools.
first and super cool. They're so smart. Goodness gracious. Awesome. Well, if you all don't have any more questions, thank you so much for having us. And I hope that we can all stay connected in the future.
Yeah.
So enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenae. Thanks, Heath. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
You're welcome. See you down the road. Take care.
See you all.